FM. Oluwafunke Israel here, saying, how are you this morning?
Yeah, good morning. It's a Wednesday morning. My name is OYEDAYO FOLORUSHO. You're welcome to today's newspaper review.
And looking at the front pages of Punch newspaper, Nigerian Tribune, and Daily Trust, this is where we'll be bringing you top stories from.
And this morning I'll be taking us through the Nation newspaper and the Vanguard newspaper headline this morning.
On Nigerian Tribune, ADC won't surrender to tyranny. David Mark renewed hope a scam. Aregbesola are still on the riders. We will win 2027 election. Atiku, Nigeria heading to disaster with huge debts. Obi, party needs viable candidates to defeat. Tinubu and Mechi court orders parties to maintain status quo in state chairman suit. No country can develop with inefficient tax system. Tinubu, inauguration NRS head office in Abuja. Insecurity will stop after election. Akpabio, Supreme Court orders accelerated bearing in PDP APC leadership. Crisis matter. Fixes April 2022. 4. Definite hearing. Olubadan Ajimobi. Others deny plots to impeach Makinde.
On the Nation headline this morning, NRS raised tax revenue from 711 billion naira to 3.6 trillion naira in 2 years. IMF recapitalization of banks buffer against global shocks. ADC expels Nafiu Bala Abejide orders. Don't give Ondo South senatorial slot to Elijah Eseodo. Federal government plans support for Julius Market bombing victim. And that's all I have on the Nation headline this morning.
On Punch, ADC convention, Mark Atiku Aregbesola tackle Tinubu on hardship insecurity. Alleged coup, detained soldiers' wives demand justice. Akpabio links terror attacks to plots against Tinubu. Chibok girls remembered in emotion-laden photo exhibition. And Nigeria's debt is 159.28 trillion naira on fresh loans. These are the stories on the Punch this morning.
And on the Vanguard this morning, ADC dares court, INEC holds convention. Julius airstrike, no innocent victims, defense minister. Nigeria's Mrs. OPEC quota produces 1.38 million BPD. Ebonyi community counts loss as windstorm wreaks havoc, destroyed church use. Old tax laws made Nigerians poor. Tinubu. Insecurity will end after 2027 polls. Akpabio. While I was in Edo, Edrak Abdul Karim. And that's all I have on the Vanguard headline this morning.
And looking at the front page of the Daily Trust. Right back after this break.
We are your connection to the sounds that surround you.
And I felt like the Barbie. I'm a dog, but
Hit music belongs here.
I got the keys to the city.
This is Vicinity FM 95.3. Good morning.
Good morning.
From Vicinity FM 95.3.
Good morning.
Welcome back now on Daily Trust. ADC expels Nafiu Bala Abejide on VU's next move. Despite bill, Erufai to remain in custody. Old tax laws impoverished Nigerians. Tinubu. IMF cuts Nigeria's growth rate from 4.4% to 4.1%. FCT community students trek 7 kilometers to school in Niger. Stories are on Daily Trust.
NRS raised tax revenue from 711 billion to 3.6 trillion naira in 2 years. The federal government yesterday outlined the gains from its revenue and tax reforms, which has been monthly revenue rise by 411.3%. With strong revenue collections across key agencies, total monthly revenue, which stood to 711 billion naira in May 2023, grew to 3.635 trillion naira by September 2025, according to the executive chairman of the Nigerian Revenue Service, Zak Adedeji. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said the reform was designed to build a solid and sustainable revenue governance framework for the country's long-term prosperity. For more on this, we can find it on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Now bringing you details from Nigerian Tribune. Oluwafunke Ladoja reacts to alleged plots to unseat marking day. The Oluwafunke of Ibadan land, Rashidi Adewolu Ladoja, has dismissed claims linking himself to an alleged plan to unseat Oyo State Governor. In a press issued on Tuesday by his media aide, Adeola Oloko, the monarch described the allegation as false and urged those behind it not to drag the Oluwafunke throne into political controversies. The reaction comes amid recent reports of alleged controversy involving both the governor and the monarch over claims of a separate plot to remove Ladoja from the Oluwafunke stool.
I'm still on the Nation newspaper. Federal government plans support for Jili's market bombing victims. The federal government will provide humanitarian support to families affected by the airstrike in Jili, Borno State. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said yesterday it ordered a full and independent investigation into the incident. In a statement, the minister conveyed the government's condolences to the victims while outlining steps to assist affected communities. According to Idris, the federal government is already working with the government of Borno and Yobe State, as well as emergency agencies, to deliver reliefs and support to families impacted by the strike.
Supreme Court grants accelerated hearing in PDP leadership disputes. The Supreme Court on Tuesday granted an accelerated hearing in legal disputes involving the People's Democratic Party, underscoring the urgency of the matter due to its implications for Nigeria's democratic process. The Apex Court, which began hearing of the appeal by the Turaki-led PDP against the judgment of the Court of Appeal, approved several procedural requests aimed at expediting the case. The requests include abridgment of time, departure from standard court rules, and a fast-track hearing schedule. The court directed respondents to file their briefs within 5 days, while the appellant has been given 2 days to respond on points of law. The matter has been adjourned to April 22nd for a definite hearing, with all filings expected to be completed by April 21.
Still on the Nation newspaper, ADC expels Nafiu Bala Abejide orders. African Democratic Congress interim national chairman Senator David Mark yesterday said the opposition party will not bow to intimidation and pressure from any quarter. The interim National Secretary, Chief Rauf Aregbesola, who gave a report on the activities of the party, alleged that the Independent National Electoral Commission, under the leadership of Professor Ojo Amukwito, has become a theater of illegality and criminality. The convention was held in an atmosphere of anxiety on the day ADC resumed its legal battle over its protracted leadership tussle. Also, ADC is locked in battle with the electoral agency over the withdrawal of recognition from Mark and Aregbesola as party leaders. For more on this, we can find it on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Now coming back to Nigerian Tribune, ADC said it won't surrender to tyranny. David Mark, the national chairman of the opposition African Democratic Congress, Senator David Mark, on Tuesday said the party would not surrender to attempts been made to silence the voice of the people and destroy democracy in the country. He stated this while speaking at the 8th National Convention of the ADC held at Rainbow Event Center, Abuja. Mark said since the beginning of the current journey, the ADC had faced many challenges and hurdles as well as fears and unprecedented betrayal. He noted that recent developments involving the Independent National Electoral Commission have raised fundamental questions about the process that govern the democracy. For more on the story, it's on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Vanguard newspaper this morning, insecurity will end after 2027 polls, Akpabio. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, said yesterday that the recent upsurge in the insecurity across parts of the country was politically motivated ahead of the 2027 general election. He said the attempt were to discredit President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, adding that 2 weeks after the general election, the attacks and bombing would fizzle out. Akpabio said Nigerians remained firmly behind President Bola Tinubu and would massively vote for him despite what he described as distraction. For more on this, we can find it on the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Rivers community. Protest 2-year river fire demands urgent action from NNPCL. Residents of Ifeomina Ama community in Okrika local government area of Rivers State have staged a peaceful protest calling for an urgent intervention from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited over a fire that has reportedly been burning on their river for more than 2 years. The demonstrators, comprising youth, women and elders, expressed concern over what they describe as the devastating impact of the persistent inferno on the environment and livelihood. According to community sources, the fire began following an equipment failure at an oil well on February 26, 2024, has continued without being extinguished. And for what I know, I saw that video and it's really devastating. So the community affected by this river fire cannot fish, cannot farm in that water and around because of the river fire. It's almost unbelievable, but if you see the video, you will know that fire can burn on water.
Still on the Vanguard newspaper, Ebonyi communities count losses as windstorm wreaks havoc, destroy church building properties. Residents of Okwitsumo community in Abakaliki local government area of Ebonyi State accounting huge losses following a devastating windstorm that wreaked havoc in the area, destroying properties worth hundreds of millions of naira. Badly affected includes the Assemblies of God's Church in the community, which had its house completely destroyed, as well as farmers whose crops were ruined. Many other buildings in the surroundings area were also destroyed by the early Tuesday morning windstorm. The incident, which occurred around 3 a.m. at Gambian Junction, caused widespread destruction in the area. For more on this, we can find it on the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Now moving to the Punch. Details of the stories on Punch coming your way after this break.
Are you a business owner looking to grow your brand or launch your hustle for enhanced value? Vicinity 95.3 FM Ikejile, Ijesha, Osho State is calling on public and private establishments to advertise your goods and services. With a wider reach in Osun, Ondo, Ogun, Ekiti, Kwara, Oyo, and Kogi states, let's push your products and services to a new height. For more information on advert placement, partnership or program sponsorship, please call Giwa on 08112499685, 08112499685, or Oluwafunke on 0810753215. We offer only premium services at Vicinity 95.3 FM.
Mo fọwọ́ sọ̀yà. We need wild dance follow. Vicinity FM, àwa ní bàbá.
Thanks for staying with us. And now on Punch, Chibok girls remembered in Emotion Landing photo exhibition on the story. A photo exhibition commemorating the adoption of Chibok girls opened in Lagos on Tuesday as stakeholders renewed calls for remembrance, justice, sustained advocacy for those still in captivity. The exhibition, titled More Than a Decade on Chibok Photo Exhibition and Commemoration, was organized by the Murtala Muhammad Foundation. The exhibition, held at the Intersection 360, runs from April 14 to April 30 with public viewing scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday. The event marks 12 years since the Chibok schoolgirls' adoption, when 276 girls were taken from Government Girls Secondary School, Chibok, in Borno State, an incident that drew global outrage and sparked widespread advocacy. It's been 12 years since, I think, the tenure of the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. And now there's still a cry that some of these girls that have not returned, we look forward to their return from captivity. Can't believe it's been 12 years. Well, that's the situation when you have insecurity on your hands. We pray one day we conquer all of this, but above all, even Akpabio has made a call that said something this morning, saying that, of course, insecurity, by the time election comes to an end, everywhere will be quiet. So, or we shouldn't have this on our hands. People should not use insecurity, to disturb the administration of someone, an incumbent president. And that's a picture that people are painting. This is what we usually have when election is coming. We're seeing security on the high side, and it's continued to escalate just, to downplay the work of an administration or an incumbent president at the point when we have situation like this. Moving ahead.
And on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, old tax law makes Nigeria poor, Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu has said colonial-era tax laws contributed to economic hardship in the country. According to him, fragmentation, multiplicity, and inconsistencies in the old fiscal framework weakens national prosperity. Special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, who disclosed this in a statement titled Old Tax Law Made Nigerians Poor, New System Will Create Opportunities and Prosperity, says President Tinubu. Yesterday said Tinubu made the remark during the commissioning of 16-story Nigerian Revenue Services NRS headquarters in Abuja. Tinubu said the new tax reform introduced by his administration were designed to create a more inclusive, investment-friendly, and people-centered system that would drive long-term economic growth. He said the new tax system, which became fully operational in January, was introduced to replace outdated colonial structures and strengthen Nigeria's fiscal foundation. For more on this, we can find it on the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Security beefed up at JAMB exam centers. Police. The Nigerian Police Force has deployed a rapid response team across examination centers nationwide ahead of the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination conducted by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. This is as the police dismiss circulating rumors about threats to candidate safety, and as of founded in a statement on Tuesday, the Force Public Relations Officer Anthony Placid said the police were aware of recent unfounded rumors concerning the safety of some centers in North Central State, but stressed that such claims had no basis. The Nigerian Police Force wishes to categorically state the claims are without basis. However, just to see that they are left, they do not let their guards down. The response team has been deployed across the country as students take their joint matriculation board exams. This story, it's on the Punch.
And on the Nation newspaper, AGF restates commitment to improving criminal justice system. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, has promised continued commitment to the improvement of the criminal justice system. The minister expressed delight about the impact of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 on the prosecution of criminal cases in the nation's court since the enactment of the law. Fagbemi noted that the law has also reduced delays in case management, congestion in courts, and overcrowded correctional centers. The AGF spoke yesterday in Abuja at the unveiling of 2 documents to aid the implementation of ACJA, the National Minimum Standard on the implementation of ACJA 2015, and the Harmonized Restorative Justice Training Curriculum and Manual. For more on this, we can find it on the Nation newspaper this morning.
And moving to Daily Trust, FCT community students trek 7 kilometers to school in Niger. Parents in Shezeko community, Tungamaji ward of Gwagwalada area council in the FCT have expressed frustration over the absence of junior and secondary schools, forcing students to trek about 7 kilometers daily to attend classes in neighboring Uzon town in Niger State. Some parents who spoke to Abuja Metro described the situation as a long-standing challenge affecting access to education in the community. They said that despite placing a high value on education, they had no option but to send their children to schools in Izom in Gurara local government area of Niger State. Parents Bulus Matthew said 2 of his children had to relocate to Izom after completing their primary education in the school. So you live in a town, you live in the Federal Capital Territory, and you school in Niger State, and children are going to walk for 7. Do you know what 7 kilometers is? Walk 7 kilometers every day. Now, considering the insecurity in our country, considering these are children, and they should school closer home so that parents can have their eye on them or even see them to school every morning. But these children, their parents have other means of livelihood, so they have to just go on the road. And we know how dangerous this can be, and this is the FCT. Of course, this is worrisome, but they tell you it's Nigeria we live in today. I think that I've seen this repeatedly in FCT. There was a time even teachers for 9 months, for months, went on strike, and this is in the FCT. I usually say this, if our leaders say they don't see what's happening in other states, of course, FCT, most of these people reside there. So, FCT should be the first recipient of whatever the dividends of democracy is. How can children live in Gwagwalada and school in Niger State? You live in this state and you go to school in another state every day. This is disheartening, and these are young people. If you're in GS class, when I was in GS class, I was just konkolo. So imagine these children. They're just children. They're adolescents, and they have to travel that mile and walk, because even if you have to pay transport, it will be very expensive. And do you even think the parents can afford this? This is because there's no junior and senior secondary school in the FCT. I don't care what part of FCT is, but the FCT should provide education, because that is where we have all our leaders. And I always say this, if I live close to the palace, I should enjoy what the palace enjoys. Of course, because if there is light in the palace, even if there is no light in my house, at least the rail, the tap, everything, I will enjoy. So this is what it means. But this is where we draw the curtain on today's newspaper review. Thank you for being part of the show. I'm Oluwafunke, Israel. Thanks to producer Mujibula Akule and executive producer Kolade Adekola. Catch you tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today on the newspaper review. I'm OYEDAYO FOLORUSHO.